hello, good morning. It's Monica from Life is Art, and this is the Saturday 10 a.m. technique at the December in Lapland online crop. And we are going to be doing something a little different today. We are going to be making a three-dimensional object, and it's an octagonal gift box. And I like doing things that are a little bit different sometimes because sometimes we need an idea for gift giving or for sharing some treats, maybe some homemade goodies, that sort of thing. So this is a fun project, and I'm thinking as I'm looking at the shape of it, you could probably even share a cupcake in there as long as you put something in there to kind of make it food safe, if you know what I mean. Line it with some kind of food safe thing. But yeah, so this is going to be an interesting project. There's going to be a lot of scoring, but don't worry, it's not difficult scoring. It's just you got to do a lot of scoring because we're making an octagon and it's a 3D, and so that's just how it is. If you're joining me live, just say hello or howdy so I know you're here. If you're watching later on replay, you can just leave a comment. And I see that Diane is watching. Good morning, Diane. And Shannon's here too. Good morning. So we are going to be using one of the online exclusive collections for this project, and the collection is called Season of Green and Gold, and it's a beautiful collection. So if you're familiar with our catalogs, we have the annual catalog, then we have mini catalogs that come out a couple times a year, but we also release products from Stampin' Up! Through online exclusives. So there's no catalog for it, but they bring out products every couple months just online. So this is one of those online exclusives. It's gorgeous. It's got all sorts of lovely greens in it, and it has gold foiling, which is fabulous. So it's a specialty designer series paper, and it's 12 by 12, which is great for doing any kind of project. The base of our octagonal gift card is going to be using Pecan Pie cardstock, and that is one of the coordinating colors with the season of green and gold. And it's a beautiful color. It reminds me, if you're familiar with the Close to My Heart colors, it's kind of like toffee. And so it's a gorgeous brown color, looks beautiful with golds and greens. So it's no wonder that they chose it for this collection. So we've got Pecan Pie here, and this has been cut to 10 3/4 by 7 3/4. And obviously you didn't see anything on there that looked like 2 inches. So it's 10 3/4 by 7 3/4. And I will be posting the measurements for this when I post the pictures and also in the description of the video. So it just takes me a while to get it there. So 10 3/4 by 7 3/4. We're going to bring in our scoreboard because we need to do some scoring. So let's line ourselves up here. And we're going to score first along the 10 3/4 inch side. I've got my stylus here. I'm just trying to get everything in the frame. And yes, the video is still a little bit squashed horizontally, so things may look slightly disproportionate, but just trust the numbers and it'll all work out. So along this 10 3/4 inch side, we're going to score first at 3/4 of an inch, all the way across, and then 1 3/4. So we did 3/4, then 1 3/4. Now we're going to 3 1/4. So 3 1/4, and then 4 1/4. Is that correct? 3 1/4, 4 1/4. Yes, 4 1/4. And then after 4 1/4, we're going to jump to 5 3/4. Then 6 3/4. And after 6 3/4, we're going to 8 1/4. No eighths in this project, just 8 1/4. And then our last one is at 9 1/4. So let me run through all those measurements again. So along the 10 3/4 inch side, we're going to score at 3/4 of an inch, 1 3/4, 3 1/4, 4 1/4, 5 3/4, 6 3/4, 8 1/4, and 9 1/4. And again, I will post all of those. Now we're going to turn 90 degrees to the left here. So turning, rotating to the left. And we're going to go along this 7 3/4 inch side. And we're going to score first at 1 1/2. And then at 3 inches. And finally at 5 3/4. So along the 7 3/4 inch side, we scored at 1 1/2, 3 inches, and 5 3/4. And every time I say that, I double check that's exactly what I did, because you never know. You just never know. Now I'm going to hang on to my stylus for a minute, but I'm going to put my scoreboard away. So I don't know if you can see the score lines in the light here, but we have our first score line over here was the 3/4 inch one. So we want to keep that one on the left, the 3/4 inch one. This one over here is 1 1/2 inches. So this is half the size. So the skinniest tab is going to be on the left. Okay. Now we need to do some, you know what? I'm going to do the folding first. So we're going to do some folding, and we fold with the bump side. Sorry, I have hiccups of all the things to get right now. We always fold on our score lines with the bump side to the inside. So we're going to flip over so that our bump side is showing here. And then we're going to start folding and creasing down. So I'm going to begin at our 3/4 inch one. And we're folding it with the bump side to the inside. We're going to move to the next one. And I always find when you're doing long scoring like this, you kind of just put your fingers on the score line, lift it up, and it will just kind of set down into that score line. You can, of course, keep an eye from side to side to make sure your edges are lining up in case for some reason you went a little crooked. Maybe your paper shifted in the scoreboard. So keep an eye on that, because the straighter it is, the better your product will be at the end. Or your project, not product, but project. And we're just going to give every score line a crease. And you may notice as I'm creasing these down, when I'm coming in to give the crease, I start in the center and mark out to the edges. And that is the best way to score along a line, is to always start in the center and then go out to the edges. Keeps everything in alignment a lot better. We're getting to the end here. In fact, this might be the last one. Yes, indeedy it is. Now you'll already see that this is starting to go in the form that we want, because we're making a box, right? So don't fight that. Paper has a memory. Now we need to score our horizontal lines. So again, we're going to turn it over. So I got our bump side here because we're folding it with the bump side to the inside. When I say that, fold the bump side to the inside, it means that our bump is going to be inside, sandwiched between our pieces of paper. So the bump is in there, okay? And then we can just do all of our horizontal lines. Again, creasing from the center to the outside edge. You're checking your edges to make sure they're lining up. And our last one is nice thick cardstock, so it works good for this kind of project. Okay, so there we go. So once again, we have our 3/4 inch section to this side. We have our little squares. So there's like rectangle, rectangle, square. So there's a little row of 1 1/4 inch, sorry, 1 1/4? 1 1/2 inch at the top, and then a bigger section at the bottom. But that, as long as those 3/4 tabs are on the left, you know you're in the right spot. Now we need to do a little bit of cutting and trimming. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to go to the bottom, and all along the bottom, and hopefully you can see the score lines a little better now that we've done the folding, we have these vertical score lines that intersect with the first horizontal line here. And we want to cut from the edge up these vertical score lines and stop at that first horizontal score line. So we're just going to go all the way across. We're basically making a really big fringe. So just snip right on that score line and then stop when we hit the horizontal one. Easy peasy. Like most 3D projects, as long as you take your time and you work through the steps, it's not a difficult thing. You just have to follow the steps. Hey, Deborah, good morning. Oh, I see Mama's watching too, and Robin. Robin's taking a break from shoveling snow. They've been getting a wallop of snow up in Timmins. And we'll just work our way all the way across. We're going to snip on every vertical line just to that first horizontal line. You don't want to overshoot that. Just go up to the line. There we go. Now, this last little tab, the one that's the 3/4 inch, we want to remove this section, but to make it a little bit cleaner, what we're going to do, we're going to turn it, and instead of cutting right on this horizontal score line, we're going to angle our scissors just a little bit like this, so that the point is at that intersection, but we're cutting a little triangle of this next section off as well. So we're just going to go a snip, and then the piece that we've cut off, I hope you can see that. You can see the little score line there, and then we've just got a little triangle wedge of that other one, and that just helps it make it look nicer when you're doing it at the end, when you're sticking it all together. Okay, so now we've got our fringe all along here. We've cut off our 3/4 inch with a little bit of a wedge. Now we're going to move up to the top, and we're going to go through the same process. We're going to cut the slits all the way along, but before we do, we're actually going to remove these first 2 boxes right here. So the 3/4 inch one and the very first one that is 1 inch wide. So we're going to come to this horizontal score line and just trim to the second vertical score line. And then we're just going to cut this one off. And we're not going to do anything fancy-dancy with it. We're just cutting right along the score lines. That's it. So now you should have that notch. Down here we only cut the very first one. Up here we cut the first and second. Okay. Now let's create our fringe. So we're going to turn it around and make it easier. And we're going to cut on all these vertical score lines just until it meets the first horizontal score line there. Creating our big fringe. Looking easy so far. All we've done is scored, folded, and now a little bit of cutting. We know how to score and fold and cut. We're good. We're paper crafters. We can do these things. Okay, so we've made our fringe. Now all those pieces are separate. And you see what happens when you curl it around, because we're making a box, remember? All those little pieces kind of overlap each other like that. And that helps us to create the shape that we want. But we need to remove yet a little bit more of the tabs up here, just for the ease of our project. So you'll notice we have 1 inch tabs. There are 3 of them. So I'm going to hold the 1 inch tab and I'm going to fold the larger tabs under, so that we've just got the 3 1 inch tabs sticking up, and we're going to remove those 1 inch tabs. That's why we folded those other ones out of the way, and now we can take it making sure that they're tucked in behind, and we can just trim off those 1-inch tabs. Gotta get my paper to bend the right direction. Sometimes you have to wrestle with it. So there we go. We've cut off our 3 1-inch tabs. You don't have to get rid of those. You can save them. You can make little dovetailed banners for a project. So now this is what our box should look like before we start folding it up. We should have all of the tabs at the bottom except for the 3/4 inch. And then at the top, we should have removed the first 2, the 3/4 and the 1 inch, and then all the rest of the 1-inch tabs. So the only ones that are left are the 1.5-inch tabs. Okay, now we need to do some gluing. All right, the first thing we want to do is we want to add some adhesive onto this tab right here. So this 3/4 inch tab that's on the end, we're going to add adhesive to that. Now you could use liquid glue, but I'm going to use this kind of adhesive just because I will. Just because I am. I will use liquid glue later on in the project, but for now, that's good. Then the next thing we need to do is a smidgen more scoring. And for that, we're going to need a pencil. Now, this is maybe the trickiest part of the scoring. What we want to do is to line up our project along one of our grid lines here, just to make measuring a little bit easier. There we go. And you should see that there's an inch in between each of these. And all we're going to do, remember that this is a tab, so it's going to disappear. We're just going to mark the center of the top of each of these 1-inch sections on this second row of sections. We're just marking it right in the center. So it's 1 inch, mark it in the center. Now this is sort of the tricky part. We'll move that tab back out of the way. We need to bring in our ruler and something we can score with, and we're going to do a few angled score lines. Now I know that can be intimidating, but it's not terrible. Okay? So we have these rectangles here, and we've marked the center at the top. And what we're going to do is we're going to score from that center mark down to the intersection on the lower left of the rectangle and the lower right of the rectangle from that top center mark. That's all we're going to do. A couple little angles. So let's line up our ruler with that top and with the bottom left, and then just make a score line on an angle. Then we're going to line back up at the top and the lower right, and we're going to score that angle. Now let's see if I can show you that in the camera, if it'll focus on that and show you the score lines. So in that section there, I'm trying to angle it so you can hopefully see this. There we go. The score lines, we just made little angles just like that. Okay, we're going to do the same thing with the other 3 boxes. So again, we're using the lower left of just this little rectangle and that top mark at the top, and give it a little score. Then we're going to come to the bottom right, line it up with the center mark at the top, and score. Move to the next 1-inch section, line ourselves up. It's a lot of repetition making something like this. You just keep repeating until you finish all the things. And then score. And then we'll come to the next 1-inch section where we've marked. Go from the bottom left to the top center, bottom right to the top center. Okay, one last round of creasing to go, and we don't even need our bone folder for this. And all we're going to do is we're going to kind of do the opposite of what we always say. We're not going to fold it with the bump side to the inside. We're actually going to just crease it like this. So we're creasing on this little angle. So all you're going to do is put your fingers in behind, put your finger on top so that the paper at the front here doesn't move. And you're just going to fold it over and just crease until you hit that first intersection. You see, we've just creased there. And then we'll move to this next one, and you lift up, and we're just finger creasing. It's not going to be a harsh crease, okay? And you will see that it will make those two nice little angles. We're going to repeat that all the way across. So you just lift up from behind, use your fingers to help it. Just give it, let me show you on the back, just give it a little squish down. You don't even have to get right into that corner. Just give it enough so that it remembers it was supposed to fold there. And then we're going to crease it from the other side. And we'll just work our way across. Just a little crease, a little pinch, just so it knows that's what it's supposed to do. Kind of looks like little gables when you look at it from the other side. Look at that, looks like little gables. Okay, so that is now all of our creasing done. I thought I was done before, but then I forgot about the little angles. Now let's decorate this. And so for the decoration, I'm going to slide in. I've got my pieces all arranged here because I did it kind of crazy. And I wanted to, because this is a pattern that goes across, I decided to cut it so that the pattern goes all the way across. It's not essential. You can even mix the patterns. But what you need is you need 4 strips that are 3/4 of an inch by 2.5. Okay, and they're alternating, right? Because we've got our 1-inch columns. And then we also need 4 strips that are 1.25 by 2.5. Okay, and this is where I've used that green, season of green and gold. So I've got skinny, fatter, skinny, wider, skinny, wider, skinny, wider. And then for the next section up, we need 4 pieces that are 1.25 inch square. So 1.25 by 1.25. And this is one, it's French vanilla with gold foiling on it. This one is all the greens with some gold foiling. Beautiful papers. And so we need 4 of those, 4 of the skinny ones, and 4 of the wider ones. So because my pattern goes across, I cut a skinny one, then a wide one, then a skinny one, then a wide one. You don't have to do that. There's enough space in between that it really doesn't matter. But in case you wanted to do it that way, I set it up that way. Okay, let's start by adding these pieces onto our project. This is much easier to do while everything is still laying flat. I've got my adhesive backing on here already. And we're just going to take the 3/4 inch one and center it in that first little section once you get past our little tab there. And then we're going to take one of the wider ones. And we're just centering them in each of the little sections, creating our pattern. But you could definitely alternate. I could have used the paper that I'm going to use in these sections as the spaces in the narrow bits or something. You know, you don't have to use the same pattern all the way across. But this is my favorite one from this collection, so the more the merrier. I'm using it up rather quickly. How's everybody doing? Are you enjoying our adventure in Lapland today? And the past 2 days, we're on day 3. We have one more day tomorrow. You may have noticed that I put a post about the perks of the crop on the group. But one thing that I added today, because we found out about it yesterday, is that Stampin' Up! Is having some free shipping days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday this coming week. And I always extend the ordering from my crop until midday on Monday, Eastern Time. And so if you have a larger order that is $100 or more, you may want to wait until Monday morning to put that order in because you're going to get free shipping on your entire order. If you have a smaller order, but it's $60 or more, then one of my crop perks is that you can choose to get $10 off your shipping, or you can get the kit of the month, one or the other. That's a new little option that I'm doing. And so the $10 off really doesn't work when you don't pay any shipping. So if you have something that's larger that you're going to get free shipping for because it's over $100, you might as well wait until Monday morning and put the order in then, because you're going to get the best deal with that free shipping. So if you have any questions about that, just reach out to me, send me a message. I'll be happy to help you with that, because it might sound a bit confusing. Alrighty, enough of that. Back to crafting. So I've added all my pattern pieces across, and then I'm adding my pattern pieces up at the top. We're not putting any patterns in where the angles are. In fact, we could bring in our eraser and take out our pencil marks if we want. You're not really going to see them that much, so it doesn't terribly matter. But you can if you want, if you're the kind of person that needs to do that step. So there we go. So we've added our skinny strips and our wide strips all across this larger section. And then just in the ones with the tabs, with no angles, we've added our 1 1/4 inch square pieces. All right, let's get rid of those. And now it's time to, let me see, what else can I do before we start folding it up? We need to punch holes in these, and I have found the easiest way to make sure you get your hole punched in the center is I cut out a piece of 1 1/4 inch square cardstock. I drew lines from corner to corner, and then I put a hole punch right in the center. Now my hole punch is smaller than a standard hole punch. It's a little bit smaller. I don't even know where this came from. I think my mom gave it to me. But it's just a little bit smaller hole punch, which is nice. And so all we're going to do, I'm going to turn this around, rocking your world, is on all of these tabs that are sticking up here, we're going to just center this on there. It's the same size. And we're going to use it as a guide to punch a hole in the center of all of these. Now, we're going to put a ribbon through here. So if you're going to use a nice big bulky ribbon, then you can use a standard hole punch size. If you're going to use a smaller ribbon, then you might want to use a smaller hole punch size. You could use a crocodile, all those kinds of things. Anything that'll punch a hole. And the good thing about that is that it makes our box resealable. We're not gluing it shut on top. So it can be opened and closed and opened and closed and used again and re-gifted and all sorts of things. So that is a nice benefit. We don't want to necessarily have something that just gets used once and chucked away. It could be used again. Robin, you're doing good. Excellent. All right, so now we've gotten to the step where we need to stick this together. So we're going to remove the backing from our strips of adhesive on this 3/4 inch tab. And then I'm going to flip my project over, and it really doesn't matter where I fold it. I'm just going to fold it in on this side. So we've got our adhesive sitting up. You can see those lines of adhesive there. And then all we do is we take the other side and fold it so that this is going to meet here and overlap with that, and then stick it down. That is the easiest way, honestly. Don't try to hold this up in the air and line it up. Just fold this side in and then fold this side in to overlap it, and that works every time. Now you can see that we've got a nice 8-sided box happening here, and these pieces in the in-between spots that have the angles, those you can just kind of give a little tuck with your fingers, and they will just kind of automatically go in. Okay? So let's take our 2 tabs on opposite sides and bring them right together in the center. Then we're going to take the tabs from the other sides and bring them in towards the center. And you see how it all kind of folds up into a square? Now we're not going to close it up. We're just going to hold them there and we're going to turn it over. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do this. We're going to massage this box a little. We're going to fold it on all the angles, just kind of like this. We're just going to keep rolling it through all the folds. See how I'm just kind of pushing it to the left every time. Then we can go to the right. We just want to get everything happy with where it's going. Then let's do this again. Opposite sides in, squish it till it's right down to a little square. We want it to be happy in there. Just because that's going to help hold our shape, because we do need to glue the bottom of our box. So we've stuck that side down onto our surface, and that will help us maintain some rigidity in the shape for our box while we work at doing our bottom. So if we push those out of the way so we can see what we're doing, you can see that we have our 4 wide sides and then we have our 4 smaller sides. I'm going to take my liquid glue this time. And I'm going to go to one of the narrow sides, the 1-inch sides, and I'm going to put some adhesive just at the end. Okay, I'm not going to go too far in, just at the end of the tab. Okay. And then on this side, I'm going to go to the opposite side. I'm going to push this tab in. So that one I folded out. This one I'm pushing in, and I'm going to add a little bit of glue just at the end of that tab with it pushed in. Okay. And then all we're going to do is we're going to fold this one over, lay it on top gently. And if you kind of put your fingers on either side and then use your 3rd finger to push down, that will kind of keep those pieces straight. You see how they're not folding all the way over to the opposite side? They're just kind of overlapping in the center. So you want to just kind of get those in there like that. And yes, they will wiggle around a bit. It's okay. It'll all work out in the end. Now we're going to go to the next pair. We're going to push one to the outside, away from the center, and add some glue. And then this one we're going to push into the center and add some glue at the end. We're going to overlap on the ones that are already in there. One on top of the other. Make sure the sides line up. They all want to kind of gluey slide. So you have to be gentle, and you're not pushing down too hard because otherwise you'll unglue the ones that are already glued. It's just, you have to be a little patient. If you were really good at lining up, you could do this with hot glue, I suppose. You could use the adhesive tape as well, but if you got it in the wrong spot, it would be super frustrating because you'd have to try and pull it apart. Whereas the glue, the little bit of wiggle that it has is actually sort of a saving grace. And then we're going to do now one of the wide sides. So we're going to push one to the outside and put glue on the end. And then push one to the inside and put glue on the end, like so. Keep that one in, lay this one on top. And this is one of those tasks where you're using delicate fingers. Okay, you're not being rough with it. I know we have a tendency to want to like push down when we're gluing, but because everything's sort of wet glue right now, if we push, we're going to pop. No popping allowed. We're just getting it there. Robin says, you find hot glue dries out after and doesn't stick. Yes, hot glue does tend to do that. If you don't can't get it stuck together quick enough. It's just a lump of cold, right? Is the good thing about sort of a more liquidy glue, is that it doesn't have bulk to it, whereas hot glue does. Okay, our last 2 tabs, push one to the outside, add some glue at the end, push one to the inside, add some glue at the end, and again, delicate fingers. We're going to push those 2 together, try to make sure they line up along the sides, because that will be the best thing for keeping your box sort of in a straightish geometric shape, is that those sides line up. Okay, once you're confident that it's not going to shift too much, you can flip it over very gently and then very gently open up the top without pulling all the sides hither and thither. Delicate fingers. And then even use your glue bottle from the inside to kind of bounce up and down and make sure everything's sticking. If you had a little bottle of something, mine is getting a little light because it's getting empty. You can even just leave that in there and let it be a weight to kind of hold everything down. So I'm going to gently slide this off to the side so it can sit and do its thing. And we're going to work on one more little bit of decoration for our lovely octagonal box. I need a scrap piece of paper for this because we're going to do some heat embossing. And I'm going to be using the stamp set, The Peaceful Season, that's been my go-to this year because it's got all these lovely sentiments on it. And we're going to use this one that says, Friends and family are the true gift of Christmas, because I'm thinking these would make really nice, like, table setting treat boxes, or if you're going to somebody's house and you want to bring a little gifty, you know, a hostess gift. These are perfect. You can actually fit quite a lot of stuff in here. I was taking a look at the sizing of it, and even, like, you know those Terry's chocolate oranges? If you take it out of the packaging it comes in, just leave the foil on. That would easily fit in here. A lovely cupcake, a stack of, you know, half a dozen cookies would fit in there. A whole bunch of little candies and chocolates would fit in there. So I've got some garden green cardstock, and I'm going to use my Versamark ink. We're going to do some heat embossing here. So we're going to ink up our stamp. And we're going to stamp it. I didn't do the anti-static. We're hoping for the best. Then we've got some white embossing powder. We're just going to sprinkle that on. Give it a little tap, tap. Tap, tap. That actually worked really well. Set it to the side. Then we can use our scrap paper as a funnel. Pop that back in. Lid on. Never leave your lid off your embossing powder. That's just an accident waiting to happen. Then we're going to grab our heat tool and we're going to heat set this. So it'll change from dull and powdery, and it's going to go nice and shiny and bright. Sounds like Christmas, doesn't it? Shiny and bright. And you just want to heat it up until it does the transformation. If you're doing more than one of these, the warmer your heat tool is, the faster this will go. There we go. I think we're done now. Lovely. And then I want to use my Stylish Shapes dies to cut this out. I'm going to use the third largest circle for this, because that was the shape that fit my stamped image the best. And it is about a 2 1/8 inch die. Let's grab a little bit of washi tape. And we can center this on our nice little sentiment. There we go. grab our die cutter. Ye old big shot. Run it through. Now, interestingly enough, these dies, the Stylish Shapes dies, cut the inside and the outside with little dotted stitch line on there. So I made this one on a bigger piece, and I kind of tried to center it. It did pretty good. I could trim it a little bit off on this side. But I could use this as a fun little tag or something. Put another thing in behind, pop it up with some dimensionals. So always think when you're die cutting, unless you're doing a lot of something and you're trying to squish them all in there as quick as you can, or as close as you can, then think about, if I cut it a little bigger and I cut my piece out of it, can I use it for another project? Because, you know, waste not, want not. All right, so we've got our nice little die cut. And then I also wanted to bring in some of these woven golden leaves for a little extra something something on there. And because my paper already has some gold foiling, this works out well. And in this package, there are actually larger leaves and smaller leaves. And so I grabbed one of each because that's what came out in my hand. I have found that these little mini glue dots work really well for these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the smaller one, pick up a little glue dot on the end of it, and I'm going to kind of layer it up on top, kind of on a little bit of an angle. And then I'm going to maybe grab 2 glue dots on the base of the larger one. Let's bring in our little box. I'm going to take the glue out before I move it. And let's take a look. Oh, look at that. Our bottom stayed together nice. It looks good on the inside. So then you want to figure out where you want the front of your box. So what I always do is I find where the join is, and then I turn it so that's towards the back. You know, we're kind of hiding. It's like, you know, how sometimes when you got to clean your house in a hurry, you hide a few things in the bedroom. Yeah, we're hiding it at the back. So we've got our little circle here. I'm going to flip it over so that I keep it vertical. And I'm just going to add a couple of dimensionals on the back. Take those off. When I set down my leaves, I set them down so that the glue dots were facing up, by the way, just in case you wondered about that. And then we're just going to tuck those leaves in behind so it works with my glue dots, and then center this on the front of that panel, the wider panel, and then make sure everything sticks down. Make sure my glue dots aren't hanging over. And there we go, a nice little sentiment with a little bit of extra embellishment going on there. Friends and family are the true gift of Christmas. And then up at the top here, we need to have a way to open and close our box. So I decided to use some of the gold trim. It's a nice little skinny one, which actually technically is probably not the best. You probably do want something a little wider. I have this ribbon, but it has a silver edge, and I didn't want to necessarily mix the silver and the gold. So I'm going to use this. And you're probably going to want about, let's do, what's that, 16, 18 inches? Somewhere around there. And you're going to take your length of ribbon, whatever you decide, you're going to fold it in half. And then you're going to come down to where you've folded it, and you're actually going to do, you know how you wrap it around your finger like that, make like a little scarf, and then tuck the folded bit through the loop? We're going to make a little knot in the center, just like that. Now, because I'm using skinny little ribbon, I think I'm actually going to do a double one. So I'm going to repeat that process. We're going to go around my finger like a little scarf and then tuck it in. And then you want to make sure that the knot ties itself on top of the knot that you already had there. So you can use your fingers to kind of do that. So now I have a fatter knot. And what that's going to allow us to do is we're going to be able to put it through the holes on the top and have it not pull through. So what I like to do is I start with my sentiment facing me. And then I'm going to come to one of my side tabs. And I'm going to poke these through one of the side till we get all the way to the knot. And then we're going to push it down. Then we're going to come to the opposite side. Push both of the ends through the circle, through the hole, and all the way down. And then you can kind of cinch it up until those holes are one right on top of the other. So it's a nice little square on top. Then we'll go to the back flap, the one that's furthest away from you. And poke our ribbon through there. Does the order really matter? Probably not. But I think it looks more finished when the one that you're looking at the front is the last one on top. So you've just got that nice fold there instead of all the openings facing forward, right? That's just one of those little persnickety things. It doesn't really matter, but my mind says put the fancy clean one to the front. And so we're going to poke those through the last hole. Now, obviously, you're going to fill it before you do this. But if you didn't fill it and you're just playing with it, you can open it back up because we're not gonna permanently have this closed. It's a gift. So now all you're gonna do is you're gonna tie a bow, if you can. Just get your ends, find where they're happiest, and you don't even really need to tie a knot because it's already through the paper. They're already together. You just need to somehow get a bow tied. And if your fingers cooperate with you, it's even better. So we're going to get a bow upside down, of course. We'll just shuffle it around a bit so that it looks more like how you want it. You can pull your ends a little tighter. And then you can trim those off how you want. Now, if you want this to be something that could hang up, when you've got them pulled all the way through the center here, then you can just pull it up to the top and do the same kind of knot again, and then you will have a loop that you can hang it with. Let me show you that on this other one. So I've taken this time, and actually my knot is small enough that it goes through the holes anyway. And so there's a couple options. The other option is you can do one of these and then tie a bow around it. So many options. The world is your oyster. Now, until you get your box filled and ready to give, I wouldn't trim off the ends. So there, you can see that we've just come up, tied a knot. So now it can be hung up. So you could even have some of these hanging on a tree and then hand them out as gifts. So that's an option too. I wouldn't trim off your ends until you've filled it and it's ready to go. Because the more you push those little ends, because they're just cut ends, through the holes, you know, you'll get the little frayed bits happening. Okay, so wait until it's all done, ready to give or ready to put on your table or whatever you're going to do with it, and then trim off the ends of your bow. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing these little gift boxes come together. They're actually a pretty decent size. They're about 3 inches across, and the main part is about 3 inches tall, going up to about 4 1/4 inches from top to bottom. So they're a decent size, and yeah, you can put lots of treats in them or little gifts. I think that's super awesome, and it's a fun way to to give somebody a gift or a hostess gift or anything. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you create a project like this, be sure to snap a photo of it and pop it in the comments where I post my pictures, because I would love to see what you create, and then we can all see and be inspired by your artwork. Have a wonderful rest of the morning, and we will see you at 11:30 for Chat and Craft. Have a great one. Toodaloo. Bye.